Okay, May 2nd, 2019, Planning Board meeting has come to order at 6:02. This meeting's being, taped, audio and video. To my left is Burke Fountain, Planning Board Vice Chairman. To his left is Russ Driscoll, Planning Board Clerk. To my right is Dan Andrade, Planning Board Member, and to his right is John Texera, Planning Board Member. I'm Chris Gallagher, I'm the Chairman. And the first thing on our agenda is board reorganization. Right now, I just stated what we were for officers and, board members. What I'm going to do is start to my far right and go through each member, and start to my far right, see if there's a motion or any conversation on it.
I'd like to make a motion that we keep the board as it is right now.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Has it been seconded?
I'll second it.
Okay, second it for discussion. I mean, basically, right now, I'm the chairman. I wouldn't mind staying the chairman. I've been the chairman for 1 year. I think I've done a good job. I've tried to make it a very civilized, organized board, as far as letting everyone speak when they can, and that includes the applicant, the public, and our board. I'll open it to any discussion prior to taking any kind of vote. Dan, you have
I'd
any
like to make a
discussion?
motion that I become chair for the next year, and Greg vice chair, and Russ clerk.
Okay, there's already a motion on the board, so we have a second motion. We can discuss the first, or we can second the second. I don't know how we do that, but I guess
Vote on the first motion first.
yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so right now we have the motion on the board. Burke, do you have any discussion on that motion?
Well, since we have two people who are interested in the job, I guess, why don't we just take a straw vote to see what we want to do?
Okay. One thing I may add is, Dan was chairman for 15 years and did a fine job. I've been chairman for 1. I think it's healthy to keep a mix and to vary chairmanship. I don't really see that I did anything. I think I was a good chairman, and I would like to extend it, and I think it should move around the board. I know you don't want to be chairman. I know, Russ, I don't think you have any burning interest. John, at this time, you don't either.
Nope.
So I think it should be fair and should be split up. That's all I have to say, and if you want to take a straw vote, I go John.
Go with keeping it the way it is right now.
Dan?
No.
I'd go with keeping it the way it is. Burke?
I would go with the change, and it certainly is nothing against what you have done. You've done a fine job. You and Dan are by far the most qualified people. My only concern, and it's no fault of yours, you have a brother who's so successful that he's before us all the time, and you have to sit out too many, okay? That you have to sit out so many things. I guess that's all I'd say.
Russ?
I think I might go, well, let me ask you, I mean, my biggest concern, I'm with Burke as well, that you're both the most qualified people to be the chair, but it seemed to me, through no real fault of your own, we all have to earn a living, that there were a lot of times that you weren't available to be here. And I remember, in Dan's, all the time that Dan's been chairman, I recall a few times when he wasn't here, and he's always seems to be around town and available for all the different things. So I'm kind of leaning towards change, mainly for that reason, if nothing else.
Well, I mean, I haven't been here for my brothers, but at the same time, Dan had to step out probably equally
Right.
as much on projects that he had a
Right.
vested interest. It's a little different than having a board member who's bringing in plans that he had a vested interest in, than versus my brother happened to be an engineer.
No, I
And
get it,
that's,
you can't.
there's a little difference there, I think, and, vote your conscience. You can't go wrong doing the right thing. So, if that's the case, I mean, I don't see a reason not to have me continue being chairman. I don't see if, I think that's kind of a weak excuse, but I mean, if you want to roll with it, roll with it. I bring no interest, no outside interest. I have no vested interest. I'm not doing developments in town. I have no financial interest in anything that comes in front of this board. And there's a bit of a difference there. And I think I keep a balance. I think with me in this position, it maintains the board balance. But again, there's 5 of us, we all have 5 different votes and 5 different opinions, same as it goes with waivers, voting on subdivisions, all that, so,
So did the first vote,
Well,
did the first motion fail?
no, the first motion was seconded, and now it can come to a vote. So I think we should just,
may I ask Dan a question?
Yeah.
Chris is right, you've got a project before the board that, I don't know, is it close to being done? You hope, anyway?
As far as we're concerned,
Okay.
it's done. It's a project that's probably going to take me the next 4 or 5 years. And
So you don't expect to have anything else before the board?
I don't own anything else in Raynham besides the house I live in. And I don't expect to have anything in front of the board for additional projects or anything like that. I think one big thing that I do bring to the chairmanship is assisting Bob with town planner stuff. Since we went through 2 town planners, I was part of getting Bob into that position as town planner, and not going out and hiring another town planner, so we don't have to, we're saving over $40,000 a year. And I do put in about 20 hours a week of time, whether during the day, at night. I do a lot of research, and it's not something, being on the board for 17 years now, it's not, you gotta like it or you're not gonna do it. So, I think, that is probably far less of a concern, in my opinion, because we can go back and forth with where's, Chris's next job gonna be, and without getting into, personal conflicts, I just keep it at that.
I don't see really any of that really being relevant. I mean, I've done 1 lot in Raynham by my house that was actually approved on a subdivision plan in '93. That's been my only thing in front of the board. Dan's probably had 100 lots in front of the board. So there's a bit of a difference that's been on my tenure. But again, vote your conscience.
Well,
And you can't go wrong doing the right thing.
I just see that, and again, I miss a lot of meetings too because of work. And you're, doing things on the Cape, doing things on the islands.
How many meetings have I missed, Bert? I don't miss many meetings.
Well.
I don't think I miss any more than you, so don't be throwing that at me.
Okay.
If I'm on the island, I'm always here for Thursday.
We got a busy
I was
night.
on the island
I think
for 3
it's
months.
Time to vote. We got,
Whatever. So the motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Keeping it the same, is that?
Yeah, your motion? In
Aye.
favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Okay. Ironically, the next development is something my brother is the engineer in. I have no financial interest. I've been told I can stay in the room, but I think to stay clean, I'm going to stay out.
Chris, I think you might have to vote.
Yeah, we haven't voted him in yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Okay,
defeated
second
keeping it
motion.
the same. Now you need to vote. the
Okay,
new
second,
organization.
second motion, Dan made to have Dan as chairman and to keep everything else the same.
Was that seconded?
It wasn't.
Maureen says no. Somebody has to second it first.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. So I guess that would be it then. Step out.
If I may, Mr. New Chairman, keeping with the reorganization, do you still want me to be the Serpent rep? If so, I need to return this to them and get your signature.
Make a motion that
Unless anyone else would like to do it. for
Mr.
the next-
Texera maintains Serpent.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Alrighty then.
Let's switch.
Public hearing, continued public hearing on Greystone Estates. Mr. Troublemaker, come right up here.
Good evening. Frank Gallagher, Gallagher Engineering in Foxborough. And I'm here with the applicant, Marcus Baptiste. And this is, once again, Greystone Estates. So when we last met...
Could you tell us where our existing streets are so people at
Yes.
home will know?
This is, it's a piece of land that fronts on Locust Street between houses 846 and 864. There's a narrow portion of the property that comes and fronts on Locust Street. And then off the page here to the north is Forest Street, and the property also fronts there on Forest Street.
Thank you.
It's actually the address is 858 Locust Street. And it's bordered to the south by the State Forest, Commonwealth of Mass, and on the east is the subdivision road. Escapes me. Parkwood. So this is, I think, our third time meeting with you. And we did file a definitive subdivision. And we've gotten some feedback, and we've spoken with the abutters as well as the board, and we've met with the planner. And we're basically trying to come up with something that we hope is at least an acceptable solution for everyone. So let me just say again what we're proposing. we're proposing a roadway to come in off of Locust Street in order to create 3 new subdivision lots. Sometime after this, and it isn't part of the process that we're in, but we anticipate a second filing on this property. That would be a filing for a special permit, and that would create 2 estate lots that would have their frontage on Forest Street. We're showing those lots on this plan because at this point, we're working with not really the subdivision plan that we filed, but we've incorporated more than that. So we're essentially presenting you concept plans at this point.
We discussed having all 5 lots come in from one street, same street.
We did discuss
And
that.
you have decided you don't like that idea.
Well, you also asked us for other information related to the 3 lots, which
Okay.
we've done. So
All right.
we want to present you with what we've done since we last met.
Okay.
Because there was a request for additional grading. There was a request to look at the soil conditions that are out there. And there was a request to look at some drainage design. So we've done those things.
Okay.
So I'd like to present that to you. What hasn't changed essentially is the access way. And what hasn't changed really is the configuration of the 3 subdivision lots. But what we have done is we went out there and we excavated some test pits. We did 5 test pits on the property. We looked at the soils and the groundwater. And we found that the groundwater was actually quite deep here. We dug 5 test holes. We found groundwater in one of those 5, and it was 12 and a half feet deep.
Can I ask you where you dug?
Yep. They're shown on the plan. Our first test pit was here. The second one was here, 3, 4, and 5.
So where's that that 5th one? That's, I think what we were talking last time was doing some tests, yes, but we also wanted to see where you were talking about putting your detention basin,
Yeah, so.
if it was a conventional subdivision.
Yeah, well, what we have out there that is, among other things, we have a couple of things that we picked up by field survey that weren't shown on the plan prior. And one of them is a fence. There's a pretty substantial fence that runs like this, and it actually continues. So we didn't go through that fence to dig. We could have dug somewhat further south in here, but the soil conditions for all 5 test pits were pretty much the same. So we don't expect that it would be any different if we dug
Okay, so
any further
the one where the
south.
number 5 is, what was the water table there?
There was no water table found in that test pit. Let me just flip to a page that I've included that shows the test pits that were out there. We did find water in test pit 3 because we excavated to a depth of about 13 feet. I'm sorry, one more page. Yeah, test pit 3, we excavated down to 13 feet and we found water at 12 and a half feet. Test pit 5, we excavated to 10 feet and we didn't find water. I mean, if we had kept digging, I think we would have, but we went down as deep as 10 feet and we didn't find water. And that actually, topographically, was the lowest one on the site. It's below elevation 96.
So is where you have, you said you found water at 13 feet?
12 and a half.
12 and a half? Is there just a 2-foot difference in elevation from going from there? Looks like you're going about 150, 200 feet.
Yeah, just about 2 feet. The elevations again are shown on the, so elevation, the elevation at test pit 3 is 96.9, and at test pit 5, it's 94.2. So it's actually about 2.5 feet lower. So, in any case, we did those test pits. We took soil samples, we brought them to a lab, we ran gradations on them. It grades out to be about 70% sand. It's still, if you look at the textural chart in Title V, it still falls in the category of being sandy loam rather than sand. But it is about 70% sand. We tested 3 samples and they all tested out about the same.
On the plan you gave us at the last meeting, why'd you move your drainage? On the plan, you showed a 20-foot drainage easement, but it looks like you moved that over to the property line.
We did move it because there was a request to look at the hydrology of the site. And there was a request to look at actually as much as a 100-year storm. So what we did was we moved our stormwater basin to this location for a couple of reasons. First, we did those soil tests, we found there was no water table, and this gives us enough room to actually create a basin that would contain a 100-year storm event.
I presume you guys can't see a thing.
No.
You want to come up around and stand over here for a minute while he goes through this, and maybe you can say something?
So, you know, the basin that we had shown wouldn't be big enough to contain that amount of stormwater. This basin is. So we located it here for that reason, as well as so that we could put a discharge point really as far away from the abutting properties as possible.
But that discharge point, that's not going into any wetlands or anything, that's just going into
It's
the
not.
Mass property?
Correct. But it flows through a flow dissipator that's 20 feet wide, so, and beyond that, it actually, even in a 100-year storm, it doesn't flood up to the level that we've set for that spillway. So essentially, it contains the stormwater within that basin.
So if you were to do a conventional subdivision, most likely that's the corner that your drainage would have to go to, you think?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. If we do a conventional subdivision, we'd be, probably using more, we'd be developing the site more densely, so we'd probably put the stormwater basin down in that corner. Because we'd be, needing more room for lots and houses.
Well, yeah, but if you had to move this one already, just for this 18-foot wide road, then you would probably have to do the same thing for a conventional subdivision, no?
If this corner is the lowest spot on the site. Right now, with the roadway that we have, we can still, by gravity, flow our stormwater into this basin. And given that it's a private road and it's not going to be put forward to the town for acceptance, we put a stormwater basin on 2 of the lots, rather than
Did you do
create
any
a
cut
separate lot.
sheets so we can see the elevations of the grading around the houses? Or,
No cut sheets, but if you look at this plan, you can see the proposed contours that
yeah, how high,
show the
just
grading.
from the existing grade to the top of the foundation, how high are you?
Let me see, and we'll start with lot number 1. Top of foundation is 111, and the ground coming through the house is 108. So that's 3 feet higher than the ground that's out there. If you look at lot 2, there's a top of foundation 109 and a topographic line of 104 that comes through. Lot 3 has a
Well,
top of
top is
foundation.
109,
Right.
but the back of the corner is 102.
That's right. But coming through the house, there's a 104 contour.
104, and it,
The third lot is a top of foundation of 108 and an existing 100 contour. So if you look at lot number 3, that house would be graded in such a way that you'd walk out the basement at ground level. And those elevations are driven more by a desire to get the driveways to grade back to the road. You can see that, topographically it slopes like this. So, and again, these are preliminary, but we try to do these in such a way that the driveway will grade back into the road. So that sets the slab elevation at the garage, and then you always add at least a foot for the top of foundation. So that's really what's driving this. It's not driven by a groundwater elevation. So,
well, I know the last time that my biggest concerns are, I think, forget your name. Marcus, you've been out to my site quite a few times this last couple of weeks.
I've been to all of the sites.
Yep, so I'm sure you've have seen what the 3-lot subdivisions have been in the past, the 3 that we have.
I think ours is very
Can
similar.
you just so you
Yep.
just state your name for the record?
Marcus Baptiste. I drove out to Pamela. I agree the one off Church Street, which you developed, does look very spread out. Pamela, I think, looks pretty similar to what we have. There are 2 houses that are very, very close together, and then the third is off to the side a little bit. And
Right, Pamela was the first one that went in quite a few years ago, and it does look nice over there.
it does. And
There is not another house, though, that's directly behind it on, and I think
Well-
the biggest thing that troubles me of the 3-lot subdivision, if that came in and the other house was on the other side,
where are we talking, just so I know what you're...
if this,
if there was a house on this side of the road, you'd
if you came in and there was a house here, and a house here, and then we came off of here with a retreat lot, or build the house right on the road. And I know that would only give you 4 house lots. The one we did on White Street,
Yes, Tomlin.
he has 5 acres on his last lot, the one that I believe he kept for himself. But there's 5 acres there. There was like, I think that land went all the way over to Sherwood Lane. There's no more developing, no more, all of that land was used with those 3. If he went any other direction, yeah, he probably could have got more lots out of it.
He probably could have gotten 1 or 2 more lots.
Yeah, so, my biggest thing is, again, I looked up, and I'm gonna ask you for the deed, because I don't see that anybody's been paying taxes on this, and it could be just that I couldn't find it. I looked at the transfers, and I couldn't even find that piece was transferred over all the way back from a hospital sold it to Mr. Snow. And in the description, I don't see that piece in the description, so I'm not sure if that piece is even in the description.
I would be shocked if the title insurance company did not.
Yeah,
Pick up
well,
on
I
that,
know,
but
because I
we'll
saw the
look at
plan,
it.
but again, I'm not an engineer, I look at what, the plan that you had, and that was what I was going by. So I didn't see that was, even in the tax assessor's office, I didn't see that the taxes were ever paid on that. So I'm just not sure, so I guess, maybe you can show us that it is.
I will have my attorney look at that. I'll be on the phone tomorrow morning.
But we've approved the 3-lot subdivisions, and we've waived a lot of the requirements. And I think early on, what we said was that if you can do a subdivision by right, which is 50-foot layout, I know Tomlin has a 40-foot layout, but he has 75 feet. A 50-foot layout, That's what you need for a retreat lot, is 50 feet. And this has 40 feet, and it's going to the 3 houses. The two houses, they're established on both sides of it. There's really not, there's nothing that's gonna happen that you're gonna be buying any of the property on both sides of you. So I'm just concerned about waiving all of our requirements when we're starting off at a reduction already at 40 feet. We don't have the 50-foot layout. I tried looking back, and I think somebody had mentioned that there was a variance given on that driveway for one house. And I couldn't find that neither. All I found was something was in there from the selectmen saying that it won't be developed until sewer is available, so I'm not sure what that was.
That was brought up by my title insurance company.
I'm not sure
They requested proof of sewer.
Yeah, so sewer's here, so, again, we would have, if it came in for a conventional subdivision, we definitely would, in my opinion, we wouldn't allow it because it doesn't even start off meeting our regs. So, I think they've done a lot of, I think they've showed us that they, can move the water somewhere, and it's not gonna be flowing down. Having 3 lots that, this one here coming off of Forest Street,
Mhm.
if he wants, the way this is laid out, he can come through, do some clearing here and use this roadway as his back, put up some equipment or whatever and just, go in and out. So those are my, I don't know if you thought about doing as we talked about last time about coming off of Forest Street with, a nice entrance, some, I would think that you would be able to get a little extra money on a house lot with a nice entrance for the 3 houses going into and coming off of Locust with one house the way it is, and having 4 houses there instead of having the 5.
So
But that's my,
we looked at the property originally. Per zoning, we could fit 7 houses plus a 40,000 square foot basin, give or take. Our soil samples have indicated very low water table and pretty good draining soils. 70% sand. For us to do a conventional subdivision, we would be doing more road, a wider strip of pavement, sidewalk on 1, maybe 2 sides if it's by the regulations. So I think your bylaw, is it 22 feet width pavement? 24?
20,
24.
the pavement's 22.
Pavement's 22 and a 5 sidewalk. So there'd be 32 feet of pavement versus 18. And it would be longer. There'd be, so almost double the width of pavement, longer pavement, more houses, more trees cut.
That's if you do a full-blown subdivision. I'm not talking about.
That's when we originally looked at it. Then I found out about the 3-lot subdivisions. I did some homework on them. There have been 2 approved with 40-foot layouts, Tomlin and Cornerstone. Pamela's average lot sizes are 278,000 and change. Pamela's surrounded by wetlands. The average upland lot size is 58,000 and change, which is almost identical to our average upland lot size. The project off of Church Street, the average is 41,000. They're spread out, but the lots are actually smaller than our lots.
With 23 acres of land surrounds it that's
In-
under agricultural
In
protection.
full transparency,
That will
there was a
never-
transfer
that
of
will never be-
development right for those. You
Correct.
didn't give up lots out of the goodness of your heart. There was a transfer of development rights.
And that was all part of the plan. That was all part of the project,
I agree.
to have
Okay.
3 lots.
Cornerstone, the average is, of upland, is 72,000 square feet, so more than ours, but by 14,000 square feet on average. Tomlin is definitely the largest one, 103,000 square feet average. But compared to Pamela, Church Street, and Cornerstone, if you look at the upland, the usable land that these people can use in their yards, we're right there. We're in the very same ballpark of
So
usable yard space.
Tomlinson has, you said 40-foot layout, which it does.
Tomlin does, Cornerstone does
Right,
also.
but they have 75, 80 feet of clearing, opening that is.
They do.
So for access, if anybody's got to get in and out for emergencies,
Well, you're right.
your
And I have
40 feet is maxed. You're maxed out at 40 feet.
taken considerable time. I've spoken with the abutters on Parkwood, and I've spoken with the abutters on Locust Street that abut me to either side. I've spoken to one of them 3 times and one of them 2 times. They have been opposed to the project because the road is cutting through. They have been very polite and respectful, the nicest opposition I've ever had. I spoke to Frank earlier today and said, what else can we do?
Who's Frank? Oh, Frank.
Gallagher.
Mr. Gallagher.
Mr. Gallagher.
Again, and I appreciate all that research and talking with the neighbors and everything, and
I still have something to present.
go
Um,
right ahead.
So this is very early because this was drawn in the last 2 hours, and this was drawn after discussions with the 2 Locust Street abutters for the 2nd or 3rd time. So this is rough. This is very early and very rough. But it continues with 2 estate lots off of Forest and a 3 lot off of Forest that comes down Hammerhead, and the 3 lots are out back. It's beautiful land out there. It backs up to the state forest. It is not congested at all. It feels very private. 3 houses wouldn't congest the area. And we feel we can still get a drainage basin back there. It's actually, the road is, I believe, slightly shorter this way. I get the 5 lots I was looking for, which is 2 less than what I think I can get conventionally. I have not spoken to the Locust Street abutters. This plan is hot off the press, but I would hope this would make them happy because probably would have their entrance off Forest. Or worst case scenario, there'd be one single driveway off Locust, which has been there for years. It still keeps a significant buffer from Parkwood. We still maintain a 30-foot buffer. I think it's in the spirit of the 4 plans that have been approved already on the 3 lot subdivisions. I hope the board views it as a win-win for everybody. I hope the neighbors like it. And if the board is inclined to have us proceed with this, we would do a more involved design and check everything out.
I personally, and we can get into it, I like that better. And I'll leave it at that right now.
Okay,
And I know this is rough.
this is rough.
Does this need many waivers?
It needs the same waivers that we've already asked you for, coming in off of Locust Street.
The 4,
It's still a private road, it's still, the 18 feet of pavement and the 2-foot gravel shoulder on each side.
the 4 3-lot subdivisions, for lack of a better term, the list of waivers is almost identical. I printed them all out. Our list of waivers is nearly a mirror image of the 4 that have been approved. And it would be the same list for this new layout.
Well, this would have one roadway rather than two roadways.
This-
The other one has one roadway as well. Our original.
Oh, that's right,
filing
that's
has
right, because your two lots
one road.
coming off wouldn't have any.
Right.
yeah.
They
Just-
They have their frontage on Forest Street.
Right, right.
This would come into a, and again, it's early. This got done in the last 2 hours.
Yep.
This would come into a T, which would look very similar to Pamela. Pamela comes into a T. It would look similar to that.
But you're still coming for the three lot right now.
This would be
Still the three
a,
lots, just you're showing us the future.
Well, no,
this would be a different configuration.
It would be it would still be 4 lots.
Nope, 3.
Five.
Well, 5 total, but
Well, 5 lots,
it would be
3
a-
and
It would
2.
be a 3-lot subdivision,
Right,
and then
so you're still
after
getting your
that,
5 lots.
I would come back for 2
Bob?
estate lots.
Bob had a question, yes.
When we spent time to draft the retreat lot bylaw, what we really spent some time and thought was we weren't gonna have driveway that all went into the woods. Okay, so I would probably send them back and try to redesign this so they get one of these retreat lots off the shared driveway, so we don't have more than one driveway coming off of Forest Street. And I also would recommend that we go back and look at that 40-foot Locust Street entrance as one driveway to another house, so you don't have another entrance off of this private road. That's my concern, looking at this really quick.
Yeah, and I have no problem doing one driveway here, and if the board doesn't have a problem with this retreat lot having a driveway off of it, that would,
You would show your 50-foot frontage.
Yeah.
But you would gain access to that lot. off
Well,
of
what
the
I was,
driveway.
when I said I liked it, but I'll hold that thought, I'll finish, but what do you think versus,
I mean, I like it, the initial idea of it. If you had the driveway off, I mean, do you,
the other thing that would do is the 4th lot, even though it has its own legal frontage, could be part of the HOA, and the road maintenance expenses would be shared by 4 instead of 3 moving forward for the homeowners.
all right, so I have a question for Bob. Now, this is, I agree, having 3 driveways is, I first look at it and that's the only part I don't like. I would rather see those 2 houses access their frontage from this private way.
And I think that would reduce,
I'm just not sure. I know you have to access your frontage from your yard, from your frontage. Can one of those come in as a retreat lot and access from, say this one in the back here comes in as a retreat lot? Okay. Oh, there we go. How about, like, this one here? If this one came in as a retreat lot, and they were able to come off of here, and then say you had the one over here, now you would have 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you would only have the one entrance. The entrance can be, I like this entire thing open, because when you drive by and you look down here, if there's ever something that's across this road, somebody's gonna be able to drive, I would hope this house here could get moved over here. Somebody's gonna be able to drive out here, and they're not stuck in this alleyway, and that's my biggest concern right here. And I know it's only 3 houses, but still, that's our job. I like this big opening, if you had a couple of stone pillars and made a nice, beautiful entrance, I mean, these would be beautiful lots. But we either come in with a subdivision plan that you're looking for waivers on, and we do all 5 of them and not have the retreat lots, and they all come off of that. Or, I mean, because I just don't see it that we're gaining, we're kind of, for a better term, I don't want to say circumventing the rules and regs, but we're kind of going around it to get everybody where we all want to be. less houses, less drainage, less road, less pavement. So I think we all want the same thing. It's just, how do we do it that we're meeting our rules and regs? We can give waivers. One important thing I think we're going to be working on this year is redoing all of our rules and regs and looking for a lot of outside help, because I see a lot of narrower roads, more of a low-impact type development projects with less drainage. You have the roadside swales, and it's happening more and more, and it's really being encouraged all around the country. So this fits into that, but
I'd have to digest the plan a little bit more, just looking at it real quick, to see what kind of, if there's any zoning issues here.
well, and again, I understand
If you can't
that
waive
would.
it, you can't waive it if it's zoning.
Exactly, and that would be my thing. I like the concept. I think it would satisfy what I see as a private 3-lot, 4-lot subdivision.
Hold on, Dan.
People driving by, look down there and say, wow, those are nice houses. When Parkwood went in, we would drive by and say, those are all expensive houses, beautiful houses down there. So it's the same thing, to put the 3 houses back in the woods and the 3 people have to fend for themselves. And I say, fend for themselves, but yeah, if you got, being off of a 40-foot narrow road, not exposed to anything, to me, it's looking for trouble. So I do like this a lot better, because that would be it would be visible. You could still have trees, plenty of trees. You could have more than enough, a buffer from these people. And then if we do, if you had your drainage up here, wherever it was, and you need to reconfigure, I'm sure you can figure out how to do it. But I think Bob's right, just looking at it, I'm not sure. Yes, Burke?
Speaking of Parkwood, water is not going to flow over to Parkwood? And I know this is rough.
Yeah.
But you've done test pits and things, so you should have a good idea.
Yeah, that would be our intent. Honestly, the site flows to it, Parkwood, isn't it?
You might actually break that up and decrease the water going that
I think we
way?
could improve on it, yeah.
Okay.
We'd be channelizing some of the flow, but we could direct it to the south.
But we can store a 100-year storm. That's quite a bit of storage. And the soil samples that we had analyzed by the lab, it will infiltrate. So that's, in our lifetime, we may never see a drop of water coming out of that overflow.
Okay.
Russ, what do you think?
Retreat lots, those have to have 50 feet frontage?
Geometrically, that last lot at the end of the hammerhead, does that have 150 feet of frontage and a 125-foot square box?
It does. There's the 150 feet of frontage, and then at the 45-foot setback, there's a 125-foot square. So it does narrow at the 45-foot setback, but it's still 125 feet wide.
I would recommend, if you're, looking at this going forward, can you make a cul-de-sac, a small turnaround? If you notice at the end of mine, I did, only because it's crazy. I plow it myself, so I go down there and plow, and there's no place for me to go. This is just some guy that's gonna plow this thing eventually. You're gonna be driving over the lawns, and it's just, if you can do it, it's not that much more pavement, and you might even be able to get you 150 feet on your radius on the end there, and again, if we're looking to work within the rules and regs and with zoning, and we can make this work, then we're gonna be waiving some of our regs anyway, if we do a 3-lot subdivision. You know, maybe if we were able to put the houses on there, maybe we go 20 feet pavement instead of 18. It's not gonna kill you to do 2 extra feet. I would definitely, you know, one thing that we're gonna talk about is narrower pavement over in the future. I have a whole thing here for our next meeting for, you know, low-impact developments. And, you know, that would fit right into it. Having swales and,
I got a question for him.
Yes.
Where the land comes out on Locust Street, yeah, is that 40 feet at the street, or is it wider at the street?
80 feet.
80
Has the two
feet.
radiuses.
So, does that entrance by itself allow for that to be a retreat lot? If you didn't have the entrance off?
Requires 50 feet, but this is an
But
existing.
that's grandfathered, that one would be grandfathered in. Because that's what I said, it wouldn't even meet today's bylaw for a retreat lot.
Where I was going with it is, if that could be the entrance to the retreat lot, is there any reason that lot has to come out on Locust Street?
No.
Then, if the road shifted over and you have just the road and one driveway coming into the other lot, it's still 3-lot subdivision, that retreat lot goes out.
You'd have 2 entrances off of Forest Street instead of one.
Right. But you'd get, if you shifted the road over, you'd maybe have enough separation in there that would work, and we're still dealing with a 3-lot subdivision and 2 retreat lots.
John, what do you,
Well, I think this is cleaner. I recall in the last meeting, I wasn't crazy about the setup, but, you know, as I thought more about it over the past couple of weeks and so forth, this I like better, let me upfront say that. But the other plan that you had was similar to other things that we've done, and you know, with me, consistency is an issue. I mean, if we've allowed it before, and this was similar to that, then why wouldn't we allow it now? Why would we want something different this time around? But, again, that said, I like this. If changing from 3 entrances to 2 is a better plan, and, you know, I look to the experts here and so forth, and Bob and so forth, is a better plan, well, then that's okay with me, too. You know, I'd like to hear, obviously, before we do any voting anyway, I'd like to hear from the neighbors as what their opinion is, and Bob, if you...
yeah, and before we get into that, the consistency that we discussed way back was by right. And then we've always said by right. If you can do it by right, a 50-foot layout, then you can come in with a 3-lot subdivision. That was something that we've said from when we came up with it.
Yeah.
It's always been, that was our intent for the retreat lot. If you can do a subdivision and you need 50 feet, that's by right, then you can do a retreat lot, and as long as it's 80,000 square feet. It's always been that 50 feet by right. The other subdivisions, which on a private thing, the 40 feet means nothing. The 40-foot layout means nothing. It doesn't mean any, it's just a line. Every one of the other ones, except maybe Pamela, and we didn't do Pamela. Pamela, I think we were here, but Pamela was way back when, and it was even before we even started thinking about 3-lot subdivisions. Tomlin Estates had 75 feet open that they owned. Mayan, we have the 50 feet, which is the whole thing is open on both sides. King Street, I'm not sure, I believe he
King's
had
Cornerstone.
Cornerstone, he's got,
That was 150 feet
Yeah,
of
he's got a-
frontage,
right,
But because of wetland restrictions.
no, I understand that, but still, it still falls inside of what, you know, we're saying about our 50 feet, and, you know, so, it's not written down anywhere, it's just something that we've always said from when we were discussing it, that just like, you know, I said with our retreat lots, the same exact, the width. I do like this better if we can figure out how to make it work. I would rather see that, you know, we do a little turnaround. I don't care if it meets the standard requirement turnaround. I just think when people move there, they're gonna be much happier because they're not gonna have people backing up and on their lawns all the time. And for maintenance and for plowing, yeah, the town's not gonna do it, but somebody's gonna do it. The last thing we want is people to move in these houses and, be coming to the selectmen every time because they're paying taxes, but yet it's a private way, they get no benefits, it has to be enjoyable to live there.
These really are very pretty lots. I mean,
Oh,
it's very nice.
I
out
tell
there.
you, it's, like I said, I think Parkwood next door is a beautiful subdivision,
I agree.
and I think if you do this right, with some nice stonework, some stone trees going down there, you could raise the price and it would be beautiful. And
And
now the money that you might have given up a lot before,
Frank didn't get to it yet, but we were withdrawing our request to waive the street trees because I've seen that other subdivisions have done that. So that's obviously withdrawn.
so,
And one last thing.
Yep.
So this is the other plan, but it would lay out the same. This is the state forest land. The state forest have trails that are encroaching on our property. I've had preliminary discussions with them. If we're able to reach an agreement on the 3 lot, and it would work on the other version also, we should have enough land left over, still be able to meet zoning, at least 40,000 square foot lots, but we should be able to donate about 3/4 of an acre to the state forest, that piece of land would encompass all of the trails that are currently encroaching.
Well, that's not only gonna help on the trails, but I did find,
So that's this area right down
yeah, well, I
here.
did find on on the plan, it says lot 9, is a Taylor Road cart path that goes across there, that they have an easement on the original plans. And when I followed the cart path follows up here.
That's it right there. That's it.
Oh, is that it there?
But the trail also,
And then it went over and I saw it hit onto Taylor Road, so that is, believe it or not, the Taylor Road cart path.
the old way. So it's that old cart path, but there's also a trail all down here. So it encroaches, there's probably a few hundred feet of trail, 150, 250 feet of trail that encroaches. We would have enough land, still be able to meet our zoning. We could donate that triangle and take care of that encroachment issue.
Okay, Bob, you had,
So if the board's gonna send them off to finish this design, I would imagine most people are here tonight because they're worried about buffer and trees. I would imagine they'd
Yeah.
like to see a plan that shows a no-cut buffer zone. And when it comes to drainage, if you're gonna follow this, the first plan you had, Frank, where you show that drainage basin, I would keep that on one lot, not straddling 2 lots. So one person's in charge of maintaining it, not 2 people.
and I will ask for input from outside too. So I think that, would be a good thing, putting it on the one lot. Okay, you all set
Pam?
for now, the board? Okay, who has questions? Anybody, questions?
What exactly?
Oh, sure.
David Smith, 864 Locust Street.
So it's not at the level of detail that this plan is, but let me just show you what we have in the. So this scheme that we've just talked about shows a roadway coming in off of Forest Street.
Yeah.
With a turnaround, and then there would be 3 subdivision lots that would come off of that. And then there would also be 2 estate lots.
Yep.
They'd have their frontage on Forest Street. But the discussion has been that this estate lot would use the existing driveway.
Like it was.
Right. So the driveway issue is, you really don't want 3 driveways side by side. Every time you access a roadway, you create one more opportunity for conflict.
This is by far better, I think, for everybody, and it satisfies what we're looking to do. I think we just have to figure out if it's gonna, how we can make it work with waivers and how, make sure it fits into our zoning bylaws, because we can't change those, so we can't amend them.
Well, it's always been a
So-
driveway there. Well, I mean, it's a driveway.
Well, that part will
I had
stay
that-
because it's grandfathered in.
Yeah, well, we had that conversation earlier.
Now, talking, Bob was saying about buffer, I see this line here, that was a 30-foot buffer before, is that still a 30-foot buffer?
Yes.
So, so that going across there. This one here, this gentleman is on the corner.
Yeah.
And is this house sold yet?
I don't own those 2 lots.
Oh, you don't own those?
I own the backland with Jamie Emerson.
Okay.
I own the 2 lots over there, and Jamie owns the 2 lots over there.
Okay. Because those were pretty well cut. All right, so yeah, Bob, I think, he's showing that 30 feet, which is really what I would probably, if you have the room, if you're gonna cut this bottom piece off and give that to the state, if you had the room, even if you just did like a 25-foot buffer,
I think we have the room up here.
yeah. It's far enough where the house is, from house to house, you're probably gonna be over 300 feet apart. I'm just looking at, so if somebody moves in there, they don't go and clear cut right to the property line, and then, now,
We will look at it.
You know what I'm saying?
And they have that homeowner has a buffer on their property also. So.
right, that's what I'm saying, I
Each
saw
at
it. it's-
25 feet,
Right.
now it's 50 feet.
Yeah.
So we will look at that.
Anybody else, questions? Yes, sir, step right up.
My name is Steve Beatty of 9 Parkwood Drive. So what we've come here for is to vote on a 3-lot subdivision, and it looks like we're not going to be doing that. So my understanding is that the developers are going to come back with this plan, and then we're going to have another meeting, and then probably follow-up questions to that.
Yes, we're gonna be, Bob's gonna check into it tomorrow, Monday, to find out about zoning, to make sure he'll be in touch with the board and the applicant to let them know to go ahead and go forward with it. I'm really hoping that we can go in this direction, because I think it's,
Well, I think that's the feeling of the Parkwood area also.
Yeah.
And I think that helps Locust Street, and so
No, I think it's- I
it
think
looks like
it's-
it could be a win.
right, I think it would be,
Thank you for your
Yes, sir.
time and patience.
no, thank you. Anybody else? All right, so,
Real quick,
oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to ask, I know it's preliminary, Chris Murray, 100 Parkwood Drive. Would the drainage still be located in this center area, pitching off to the Raynham State Forest? In this configuration?
We would like to keep it on one lot, and we would like to keep it up as far as possible on this end, seeing all the grades are running down and running in your direction. We don't want a drainage basin down here. If we can put it up here on the single lot, and it would overflow if, on a 100-year storm, overflow, I'm sure that perk rate here and versus this one are probably the same, so.
Yeah, I'll just state that even though the soil looks good, I think almost everyone on that side of Parkwood has water problems. So any way we can push the water away from there.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
would be
no,
helpful.
that is definitely something that we're looking at.
Trees and water.
And back when Parkwood was done, it wasn't a standard, and I don't believe it was standard, that, our basement floors were 2 feet from our water table. Back then, we set up the transit and said, okay, that looks good, and all of a sudden, you grade everything, and now you have water in your basement, you put a pump in. Nowadays, everything, that's why the houses have to be up, 2 feet from the bottom, 2 feet from the water table. It's a lot less water issues on the newer houses nowadays than years past, but,
Well, we just Want to
We'll
make
make
sure we
sure
don't
that.
create more
we'll-
water
we will-
problems for the
Right,
existing.
exactly, and that's one of our reasons for us being here. Yes,
This plan is just less pavement.
Right.
So there's less water to have to deal with versus a conventional.
Certainly, this looks better to us than.
I made extra copies for my next meeting.
I'd just like to say to you, we appreciate you taking the effort to meet with the neighbors and come up with this alternate plan.
Thank you.
All right, is everybody, now, we're gonna continue this.
I don't either.
Yeah, what's our time, Jack, Maureen?
The time to ask is on Greystone is June 28th.
Yeah, so we have, you wanna come back May 16th?
Yeah, I think we could, it might not be final, but we could make some progress to make sure it's going in the right direction.
Marcus is ready and Frank's got a look of horror on his face.
It's just one more thing.
And again, if we're not done, we're not done, but you'll be further along, and I think everybody will have a more of a comfort zone of what direction we're going in. Because right now, they're going home, and we still are not sure of how we're gonna make this work. So I think if you do come in and you're not finished, that's fine.
Get any fishing.
But we'll put it on for May 16th at,
That's the time to act.
we'll say, let's do it first thing, 6:05.
Okay.
That would, because I think you'll be quick. So 6:05 on May 16th will be the next hearing.
Thank you very much.
All right?
Appreciate it.
Thank you. No, he's, John, yeah, he's got his sister's lots.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
Pretty safe.
No, this, he can't sit in on the next one either. All right, we have one more. Excuse me, could you take it outside in the hallway? We have one more hearing right behind you, so thank you. All right, next on the agenda, Raynham Preserve. Now, since our last meeting, oh boy. This has been one of those subdivisions that's been around for a long time. And I found out that Bayberry, Ram's Head, all of those streets that this is coming from are not public ways. They were never accepted by the town. It appears that the original Bassett Knoll, when Bassett Knoll was originally brought in front of the planning board way back when, back in the original plan, it was cut off. And it was cut on this end, which the planning board approved this plan without a dead end, without a cul-de-sac, without anything over here, which is crazy. But they also approved this other side over here without anything. And reading it all, it's because this developer, who went bankrupt, was gonna buy this land from this gentleman, Mr. Kelleher. Never happened. The next developer came in, Fedorov, they did a temporary, they called it a temporary turnaround, and they put a temporary turnaround, came in front of the board, got approval. So now, this developer and this developer are not the same, so now they had pieces of slivers of land that they meant for it to be part of this subdivision when it was approved, but it just never did. So what they did is they went for variances. They went and got 3 variances of waiver of frontage, but 2 of them went in as a subdivision. So just with that history, I also found we have $17,000 in an account that is still in our account for Ram's Head and Bayberry, $17,000 to finish. They did come in front of the planning board another time from the first developer when he went bankrupt to the second developer. They came in front of the planning board and got a waiver of sidewalks on one side because it was supposed to be on 2. They gave them that. And there's still 17,000, Maureen, 400 or 300 or something.
Something like that.
This is from back in the 80s, you say?
No, that was 90s. On the Ram set. The original was done
It was originally in the 80s.
in 96. They came in front of the board, and that's when the planning board denied them a cluster development. Now, I am aware that the board did approve the cluster, or the
OSPD.
plan
Yep.
to show how many lots. And I respect that, and I'm not looking to change what you did. I just want to give you additional information that I found, and so if that's going to stay, that'll stay. But back on, this is the furthest that it went back on '06. After discussion, it was agreed the number of conventional lots must still be determined. Mr. McCarthy noted the board could approve the open space concept with the number of lots to be determined. The board and Mr. Shute, and I'm sure you remember Shute, the name, discussed limiting the square footage of houses. After discussion, the board agreed they would approve a preliminary plan with a 2,000 square foot limit on houses being built. Mr. Shute agreed the square footage would limit the size of the houses, which would encourage the open space plan. Now, that was just something that I saw that I wanted to bring about 2,000 square foot houses. But when Nick Harris got involved, Nick Harris came in front of us, and we have 2014. December 2014, he came in front of us, and he was talking about the dead-end street, the 1,450 square feet. And then he came in front of us, another meeting, and he was talking about adding, on 635 Bedbury, Nick Harris he explained he could build the roads to the old plan by building a bridge to circumvent the wetlands. Mr. Harris noted he recently spoke with the building commissioner about the dead-end road issue that was a concern the board recently met on. He also noted that the 5-acre parcel he considered adding to the plan is out of the picture now. So that was when we were originally talking, that was before the cluster. Then, in 2016, Lee appeared before the board, and Mr. Cassanetti discussed the fact that all towns have different dead-end roads, blah, blah, blah. We're going on to, he's still talking about dead-end roads. We had said we're going to stick to the original certificate of action on that one. Then in 2016, we had number of lots, October 2016. It was 21 lots. Mr. Fountain asked what Mr. Harris is asking of the board tonight. Mr. Harris asked that the board accept a conventional plan at 20 lots so he can move forward with his open space plan. Mr. Andrade said he has not approved
approving until the taxes are paid. But his opinion is that the open space plan is better. So we all agreed, even back then, that the open space plan was better. Mr. Driscoll agreed he liked the open space plan. The board agreed Mr. Harris has to prove he can build all of the conventional lots. So he was looking at that time for 20 lots. He said that's what he was able to build. June 16th, 2016. Mr. Cassinetti presented a copy of 1996 approval, and he's still, and I think because he might have been out of all of our earlier conversations, he's still trying to convince us of building on, letting him build on a 1,350 feet dead-end road, and we basically told him, we're past that. We're done with that. So we agreed at that time in June 2016, that the dead-end road was not an issue, providing it didn't exceed the existing dead-end road size. July 2016, Bayberry Extension. Mr. Andrade asked if all bounds are correct. Mr. Harris stated no additional property is added, and the property is correct as approved. Mr. Fountain asked if the lot areas are the same as shown on the old plan. Mr. Henderson stated yes. Mr. Fountain asked, what is different with this plan? Mr. Henderson explained the road layout had to change because of wetlands. Goes on. The yield plan is 21 lots. That is compliant with the drainage lot provided as well. So in July, we're at 21 lots for what you were telling us you could build. And then July 20th, it says that Mr. Cassinetti came in front of the board and you were at 20 lots. So the only reason for me to go through all this, one, I found out that the roads were never accepted, so I did speak that we do have to get those. I spoke to Mr. Buckley and told him to go make a list of things that need to be done so we can get the roads accepted. Found that we had $17,000 to do it. But and I think we all agreed that the cost of development plan is so much better with the additional land. Straighter, it's cleaner, everything works fine. Problem is, how are we getting 28 lots when we had a 20-lot, I mean, we've been doing this for 4 years, and the lots have never gone, including what we've approved, what we said originally, what we approved was 20 and 21 lots.
You're definitely missing something there.
I think one meeting, excuse me.
Yeah.
One meeting, they came forward with a plan that showed 20 or 21 lots, and it did show some land that was gonna get landlocked in the back. That was a long conversation about the landlocked piece in the back. We asked them to go and talk to the owners of that land.
No, that was the 5 acres. That was the Perry land.
Right.
No, I was there.
Yeah, so after that meeting, they came back with this plan because they incorporated that land that we didn't want.
Right, they got 4 lots out of that land. Well, 21 and 4 is 25.
I'm not sure where the 20 is coming from. I'm not questioning.
Identify yourself.
Yeah, I apologize. Lee Castagnetti, for the applicant, representing the applicant. We actually came before you with a preliminary subdivision plan that was approved that showed the 24 lots. This plan right here.
Well, I have, again, July 20th,
So there's something
2017. 651, Bayberry Extension, and it says right in the minutes that he noted the wetlands do not allow construction of a plan as approved. The road is in excess of 1,350 feet that was allowed, and the plan had received an implied waiver of the 1,350 feet. He submitted a 20-lot feasibility plan, a 20-lot feasibility plan. So
Right,
I'm seeing what.
What I'm saying is roll that forward. It's missing something. We submitted subsequent to that a formal preliminary subdivision application relative to which you actually granted a formal waiver of the road length and it was the 24 lots shown on this plan.
All right, but was how did
As the
we,
yield plan, this was the
how
accepted
did we
yield
get
plan.
from everything going back 3-4 years, it's always been 20, 21, 22 lots. It's
I
been
have-
going back and forth.
I
How
have-
did we get,
I have no idea what was going on with the 20
well, no,
lots with-
you're in these,
Yeah,
in 2016, that's when you came into the picture. so-
Correct, but between Nick and Henderson and whatever, I'm simply saying that subsequent to that, you've looked at, acknowledged, and accepted the
we've-
24 lots. That's subsequent to that, so that's ancient history. This is current,
Well,
and this
no,
is current
no,
for
no,
you.
No, we said that the 1,350 feet dead-end road,
Mhm.
we were going to not abide by that. We were going to let you stick with the original approval on the dead-end road.
Mhm.
Providing that it didn't get changed, meaning it didn't get extended.
Correct, it actually got shortened significantly.
It got
Correct.
shortened when we did the cluster.
Correct.
Okay, so then you came in with a plan that, are you using additional land that you didn't have? Not the 5 acres, the 5
No,
acres, we've
no.
already
The
said
exact
that
same,
was so
exact
much
same
better.
land, exact same land area as the original 30
I
lot
don't know how we-
subdivision.
I don't know how we come up, and how
And
many
you-
lots
if you
on,
roll
how
that
many
forward-
lots that are on here?
24. And if you roll the clock forward to 2018, you'll find what you're missing there is an approved preliminary subdivision plan with a yield plan of 24 lots.
Well, I understand this, there's gotta be a yield plan after this, which
Right here, that's it.
from the beginning, all of what Mr. Harris was able to come up with and what you were able to come up with before this plan was 20 and 21 lots. Mr. Harris came up with 22 lots, and we asked him to take that other lot off, because he added a lot that he said was his 10% over for affordable lots. And we said, no, you can't do that. So he took it off, and I think Maureen will even remember him coming in and arguing about the 10% when he was looking to do that. So again, yes, I do agree with you that we approved this plan. I'm just wondering how we got to 24 when everything up until 2017, how did we get beyond, we had to have done something to change the original approval.
It was a different engineer with a different configuration.
Oh, I know, there's been like 5 engineers.
We allowed Perry land to become part of this and added the 5 acres, which
But that
added
brought 4 lots.
4 lots, so
Right.
we went from
But
20.
even prior-
Didn't that take it from the 20 that we originally agreed on to the 24?
No,
No?
no, it did not. The 24 was off this yield plan, which actually, when we were presenting, that was when Frank Gallagher came forward to speak on behalf of his sister for the land that she owned, that we had to, that it was landlocked and we had to provide access, at which
No, there's-
time you directed
No,
us
there's no
to-
questions about that.
Yeah,
No, there's no
yeah.
question about that.
No, but I'm just explaining.
The question is
I
how we
realize-
got from 24 to 20, from 21 in 2017 to 20 in 2017. And you were part of it at that time, because you're the one that presented the plan.
Yeah.
You submitted a 20-lot feasibility plan, July 20th, 2017. So
Mhm.
I just want to know, I'm going to have to find that plan from 2017. What did you submit? And what
that's-
difference is that? How did we only have 20 versus this? So
Yeah.
I'm just not sure what was submitted, because these
Right.
are the minutes that we had.
And you can compare the two plans, the configuration, the layout is different, the land area is exactly the same. Other than, on this plan, forget the new plan with the additional Perry land, adding 4 lots, but this was the approved yield plan by you for the 24 lots.
Oh, I understand that, but I think I said I
Yeah.
understand that.
No, and I said,
What I don't
what I'm
understand is
saying
how we
is,
got,
it's no more, there's no additional land.
we didn't have, okay, well,
Exact-
we'll look, I'm gonna have to look at, because I didn't.
Yeah.
I
But
looked
if you
at
compare,
tons of plans.
if you go all the way back to I believe it was somewhere in the 90s on the 30-lot plan, the original, the plan that's on record for the 30 lots, and you overlay it onto this, again, accepting the Perry land,
Well, there
the
was.
land area
is
There
identical.
was a,
Nothing's been changed.
There
Nothing,
was a
not one
plan that was
square inch.
submitted to the planning board that was denied, was a cluster development. In this section, they only showed 17 houses with 34 acres of open space. And that plan was denied, and that was 1996. Because, yeah, what was presented back then, the cluster development, looked like it was just
Yeah.
barracks. But this end only had 17 lots with 34 acres of open space, so. All of your open
as
space
the-
calculations.
As the narrative indicates, it lays out all of the
All-
open space calculations, and they're all compliant.
If I may, Evan Watson from Prime Engineering, representing the applicant. When Lee first came to us and asked us to do a layout, you know, he said, here, this is what they came up with and have been presenting. Here's 21 lots. We did notice there was some inefficiencies with the way that it was laid out. There was I think there was an extra cul-de-sac here, and so there was more road and less frontage and things like that. So when we took a look at it, we went along and figured out the most efficient way to, you know, design the project. So I think it was just a matter of taking a second look at it and finding a more efficient way to reduce the road length while increasing the amount of frontage in the area at the same time, so.
All right, well,
as Lee was saying,
I just want to go,
the perimeter is identical.
we gotta go back to that, just to see that plan, so we see
Sure.
what, I mean, it's, like I said, it's in the minutes.
Yeah.
Any questions with,
I do.
How many lots on that plan?
24. This, let me just point something out while I'm up in here. In gray print, this is the Perry land.
Okay,
So this was prior to, this was the
Okay.
plan we originally started with
Yep.
our submittal for the yield. That night, the issue came up
Okay.
with having to provide access to the Perry land. But at the time, that 24, and then now that's with that.
so this is the new yield plan.
well, what we didn't know was, we already had a yield plan of 20 lots that Mr. Cassidy submitted to the board.
Yeah. Okay.
That we all agreed
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
That's the only missing point here. We had a yield plan of 20 lots that the board agreed.
Yeah.
We all agreed
Yeah.
that that was it. So I'm just,
There was a different applicant at the time with the 20 lots.
it's Mr. Castanetti's name.
Yeah.
He was on it. He was on it. So it's got nothing to do with the Perry land, it's got nothing to do with, you know, it's a matter of, I followed this, and it just seemed that we had an awful lot of 20 lots, 22 lots, then he tried getting another lot in there for the 10% overage, which he took out, and
Again, there's no additional land. Check, compare it against the plans submitted then by Henderson, and you'll see that
Okay, well,
they're identical. This issue, you touched upon this a slight bit earlier tonight, and you did at the previous hearing, so I just want to address this issue. And it relates to these parcels.
oh, I figured out what that.
This, and this, and they're identified on the assessor's map here, and I had my title counsel run title on all of them, and at no time in history did the land ownership
Never changed.
ever cross over.
I understand that.
Kelleher never owned 1 inch of any of that land.
Exactly. And I
So-
found that out, but
It was not ever part of the 30-lot subdivision. So when you talked about bonus lots, or more lots, or less lots,
If you
nothing
look at
had
the
nothing
original-
to do with the 30 lots.
well, if you look at the original subdivision plan, the original plans have both on it. And those 3 lots are included in this portion.
Correct.
So-
I'm not questioning what might have been done conceptually, or what somebody might have been thinking of doing or hoping to do. I'm simply pointing out that Kelleher never owned an inch of that land, and the 30-lot subdivision was, none of those lots were created out of land owned by Kelleher as part of that 30-lot
What is-
subdivision.
what
That
he-
30-lot subdivision was always standalone, separate land owned by Kelleher.
All right, but And John, I don't want to cut you up, but I just got this plan. I just want you guys, just what he's saying, see this right here? And I don't want to make a big deal of this. All we have to do is get to a number of lots. There's a line here. See this line? This line, planning board approved the plan, what's showing this cul-de-sac. Problem is, and I couldn't dig in, how did this ever get approved with a cul-de-sac here? When, and this is at the, on another piece of land that they didn't own, that he's saying that Kelleher was separate from this guy. And I agree, it dead-ended. So then when this next guy came in, which was Fedorov, he turned around and did a loop and made a temporary cul-de-sac. And then they did and then Perry's bought this, and then they did a waiver here, a waiver here. And then over here, Ramshead was supposed to continue, but it never got continued. So this guy here, there was a waiver here in front of us because he didn't have it. So how it got approved with cul-de-sacs, the cul-de-sacs was on other people's properties, it was pretty confusing. So I totally understand, and I saw.
I just wanted to make it clear
No.
that there was never an ownership interest, so none of those lots were.
All it was assumptions.
Yeah.
The person who drew the
It was-
plans was assuming that they were gonna be able to buy it,
Correct.
and I got, I got all that.
Yeah.
So do we need to look now to see if we can find that original plan? Is that what our plan of action is right now?
Yeah, if we can find that. So other than the plan itself,
The 30 lot, yeah.
That action is on us, by the way, is that correct?
yes. Unless he has that 20 lot that came in as.
I wouldn't have the
No.
20.
Oh, so he's somebody else. All right, so I'm gonna find that, and then I think I'll go over it with the rest of the members, and then we'll see how we came from, I think it's just, it's a discrepancy of 4 lots. Again, nothing to do with the Perry land, nothing to do with adding, subtracting.
No, all
Plus-
contained entirely
Plus, we
within the
agree with
original-
this, we
Yeah.
agreed that this is a better plan.
Mhm.
The thing is we've always said, we're going back from the original approval.
Mhm.
And you're only gonna get what you can get from the original approval.
Yeah.
So that's my only discrepancy.
Thank you, Bob.
So,
Getting a little chilly.
with all that
A
said,
little too chilly for me.
with all that said, going to, and maybe Maureen. July 20th, 2017.
July 20th, 17.
They submitted a subdivision, a 20-lot feasibility plan. If we could, I'm sure we have it on file, so if we could find that for the next hearing.
Yeah.
I have one big thing with cluster developments, and I think I mentioned it, and I think I might have even insulted you that night, but it wasn't meant to be an insult, because it was the height of the yards and the height of, the amount of fill that's needed to be brought in, and the amount of tree clearing it was needed. It was basically clear-cutted, and that's totally not what our cluster development bylaw is. And I know you're looking at saying that this was a low-impact development, and Nitch is kind of questioning that. So that's, assuming that we got, the lots are fine, then I guess the question is, how are we talked about doing grading around the houses on a past plan. I think going forward, when we approve and look at cluster developments, we have to look at the soil conditions, because in our regs, it does say that the plan, it does require the grading plan for all the houses. And I think that's gonna tell us how much clearing is gonna be needed, because we always start off saying, limited clearing, but then all of a sudden you drive by and it's clear cut. That's not a cluster development. That's not what a cluster development is. And so, I guess if I can leave that with you about the low-impact development and what,
I just weigh in and before Evan's
Yeah.
got other stuff more meaningful for that, but, you know, when you're, whatever whatever the soil conditions are, unless you have absolutely ideal soil conditions where you can locate your house, your road and everything else at, just an optimum elevation, which we all know that in today's world where all the premium land was developed and utilized post-World War II, which happened to be a long time ago, leaving very little premium land. When you shrink, if you leave your lots at 40,000 square feet, you have the opportunity to do that. But the trade-off is when you shrink your lots down and then you trade off that extra 20,000 square feet as open space, you're simply providing a contiguous area or a corridor or what have you, depending on how it lays out, of a treed area. That's where your trees are being preserved because you've given up your ability to save them on the lot. It kind of speaks for itself.
That's not how the bylaws read, though.
It may not be how the bylaws read, but maybe you should look at changing the bylaw
Well,
because
we
the
are.
reality is you
We
can't.
are, but-
How many trees can you save on a regraded 20,000 square foot lot
But
with a
I
house,
think-
a driveway, whatever? How many trees can you save?
Well, that goes in that, all right, so that goes right down to the bottom line. That we're gonna have to rethink 20,000 square foot lots on, if the elevation and you need to put your foundations on the ground, the existing grade, and you have to bring in 6 feet of fill, then nothing says that we're stuck with that 20,000 square feet. Maybe we go to 30,000 square feet.
Hmm.
And that's where, including myself, I've never looked at it that way. But we don't have to stick with the 20,000 square feet. And I wish I spent a lot of time this year looking at low-impact development stuff, and, it's like anything. When you research it and you spend more time doing it and doing it for yourself, you say, something's wrong here.
But the current thinking on that is condense it and disturb as much as you want the condensed area and preserve larger swaths of natural area, not to take a lot that a homeowner then has the ability to tail all the trees down anyway, and you can't stop him from doing it.
Well,
So you're better off having the larger area that's protected.
how many
As
walking
open
trails?
space.
Yeah, how much
That-
walking trails did we get at Bassett Knoll? Do we have walking trails at Bassett Knoll? Are they, are they accessible?
Not yet, they will be, they're not yet, but yeah.
So, like this piece here, on one of the plans showed a walking
Yeah.
trails, open space, uplands that can be used
Hmm.
for, maybe they want to put in a playground for themselves, for the park, for, the neighborhood. It's going to be kind of a little secluded neighborhood. Those things. We have, when we are filling a lot by 6 feet, 7 feet in some cases, and you're bringing that much fill in, the runoff that's running down to the streets that we have to maintain is going to be an issue. It's definitely going to be an issue. I don't know how those calculations can even work when, your basins over there are large. I'm sure they'll be fine, but,
Sure they will be, they've proven to be.
yeah, so I don't know,
Already, so it's-
I didn't do that, but I'm just looking at we're going to be talking about our new regs, and I think when we look at cluster developments, we have a few to go by in town now that we can all drive by and see how we want to handle going forward, because we've been talking about how do we, preserve some land. And when Richard McCarthy brought this cluster developments to us, it was, we thought it was a great idea, and it is a great idea. It's just,
I
unfortunately.
hear both of you on you don't have a lot of room to work, but on the other hand, clear cutting is pretty ugly.
Yeah, so, all right, so he can get to the technical stuff about the low-impact development. and-
Yeah, so to the specifics of this plan, you are in general correct. We had some design constraints that we were trying to work within that actually created a little more land disturbance that we wanted to. Primarily, it's the issue here is with the sewer. So at the end of Bayberry Road, there is a sewer manhole there. The invert of the pipe is relatively high, and then the land itself actually keeps getting lower the further down you go this way. We originally proposed to the sewer department to do a low-pressure pump system, and they indicated to us that 28 lots was too many for their comfort. They wanted to see less. So we worked with them initially, and they were favorable to grant us some relief as to some of their requirements to extend the sewer. So what that actually did is, as we projected the sewer line up and the land kept going down, it required more and more fill as we went out to the back. So we've since shown this plan to the sewer department, and they see what you're seeing also, is that it's requiring a lot of fill for not a lot of benefit on the sewer. So Lee and I think it was this morning, actually just met with the sewer and was proposing a new concept to actually lower the subdivision entirely. So right now we have the Raynham Preserve off of Locust Street, Raynham Preserve East. This subdivision has a cross-country sewer that ties into a new sewer lift station, which this neighborhood also ties into. So we've actually met with the conservation agent, Azu, and with Rob, and discussed going cross-country from Raynham Preserve East to the lift station. That was met with some positivity. We'd have to show them the details to work all that out. But what that would actually do is allow us to reduce the elevation of this road. In the proposed condition now, because we're too high here, the road's actually higher than the backyards of the lots. So we had to create this area here to pick that up and bring it to the detention basin. We'll be able to make that go away. And we'll also be able to lower, like even on these lots, to achieve a walkout basement, we had to bring in fill to get to the basement. So we'd likely be able to lower all these as well.
Well, I think that was, as I'm reading and going through all of the information, what was on the plan and what you were proposing versus what our cluster, if you read our cluster bylaw, that's when I was really getting torn, because you have over 6 feet of material you're bringing in. Even the wet basin that you're proposing, reading his letter, it says that you, what is it, anything over 6 feet, you need some mass approval?
Yeah, and I can get to that. So I just wanted to explain to you that the overall design
May change and may get lower.
will change, and we're going to lower things on that side. To respond to your question about how is this an open space, we do have features that I think, like you said, about parks and things, are attractive to this site. So we have Route 49. Basically, the way that most town bylaws read with open space is they say, look at the property as a whole, find out where your areas of preferred development are and where your areas of preferred open space would be. So we first looked here to this side, and we see that we have wetland resource areas. We see over here that we have Route 495, so the most obvious place would to be site in between that, so that's what we did there. We were able to create a fairly large natural buffer. I think it's over 100 feet, might be about 150 feet of trees through here. And then on the south side, we're staying away from all the wetlands. In most cases, we're able to stay outside the 100-foot buffer zone, but in all cases, outside the 25-foot no-touch. We've created a little turnaround here for the community mail. As you know, the post office likes to see gang mailboxes. And this would also serve as a spot to access the open space, whether it be from this tree buffer through here or this detention basin here. And that brings me to the detention basin design. As we were looking at the site and looking at different designs, we thought that we could do a detention basin design that could actually serve as an amenity versus a hole in the ground that people didn't want to look at. So this basin down here actually serves as most of our rate and water quality control. This basin up front We actually don't really need it for water mitigation to slow the water down, because it's mostly done at the bottom. But we do need to have a water quality component, so that's what that serves as. But we thought it would be more attractive to have a water feature there near the turnout versus just a concrete structure under the ground.
Well, I did find out, looking back, I did see why we changed our regs to having, not allowing wet basins, and it was all about the mosquitoes when that came up.
Yeah, I have to address that. This type of basin is normally, what we used to do all the time was have a constructed wetland. So essentially you'd have your forebay, and then you have a planted wetland that has very shallow amounts of water in it. And, when you have shallow water sitting there, the only thing that likes to grow in there or live there are mosquito larvae. There's no other fish or amphibians and things to actually consume them. So that's why I chose this type of wet basin, is we actually excavate it about 5 to 6 feet deep, so that this actually serves as a habitat. There would actually be fish in there. The wet basins that I've seen actually have, waterfowl, and people can go fishing in them. And if you can do that, if you can provide other animals that live there, they'll clean out the mosquitoes very well.
Well, the problem with that 5 or 6 foot wet basin that you're providing, it's very dangerous. And the wet basins that I've seen, they've all seemed to want steps going down, stepping in the grade so they can put different grasses. Different grasses will grow when it's covered underwater versus grasses that are half filled with water. Here's a picture just one thing that I printed out, which doesn't look bad. It's not a color picture. I did see that you had you wanted white vinyl fence, and you were proposing white vinyl fencing around.
Like a post and rail fence, basically to demarcate where the basin is, but not so much to prevent people from accessing the basin itself.
I didn't see that. I thought it was a full solid.
Not
I was
a
gonna
picket,
say all
yeah.
of the basins that, on full wet basins, if they're done right, they're not done with a flat bottom. They're done so you do have some lower pockets so fish can gather, but you also have. It also raises up, so it's not like a pond. We don't want a pond that, we've always talked about having kids going in there and.
Fences around.
And they've showed several variations that have a nice looking wet basin, that they do have the slopes, they do have plantings, they do have inside, where they're different elevations. So you do have different things, where you have fish and you have different species that can grow in there that are gonna be healthy to it. Because they say if it's too deep, then you're gonna eliminate all the oxygen in it, and then it's gonna be a swamp. So, I think that's,
Yeah, there was some input from Steve, from Niche, asking about some safety aspects, and that would be easy to do, like you said, to bench
well,
the side.
again, I want you to think about it, because I'm not an engineer, and I found all this stuff out I'm looking at the safety part of it, that picture that I just gave you.
Oh, it's right here.
Oh, you got it, no, you can keep it, I downloaded it. I look at that, and it's nice looking, it's, it's not, and if you look at the way these are, constructed, they're not that deep. There are deep pockets, but if somebody's walking and walks over here and kids are around this and slide down, there's a layer there that it's gonna stop, and then there's another layer, and then another layer, and it's not just a 6 foot drop off.
Yeah, to be honest with you, when we were proposing this type of basin does require a waiver from your regulations,
It's
so.
not even in our regulations.
That's right, so it's
That
in
was-
the.
That was, it did come to us, Lee brought it to, Bob brought it to the board.
So
At that time,
yeah.
we said, well, we don't know anything about it. Chris had mentioned that it, it works better, and I just couldn't understand why we would get rid of it out of our bylaws. And then just looking back, and the biggest reason was because of ponding and from mosquitoes. That's when Richard McCarthy was.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't really go too crazy with a lot of the fine details like you're talking about, because I wanted to bring it up to the board and get input as to whether this was even a concept we would be entertaining. So We knew it was a relatively
Right.
new
Right.
concept for you. so-
Well, I
so we
think that's
wanted to
something
have-
that
Open it to discussion, so we could get some exchange.
No, that's fine,
and
I'm
direction,
not,
get a-
I'm not
yeah.
saying you did it wrong,
No,
I'm
no,
only,
no,
I'm
but
only
I'm
telling
just saying,
you
but that's- that was
what,
exactly
what I
yeah.
found, because, I'm not sure, I know it's been brought up in the past that it's not in our bylaw, so we can't approve it. I mean, it's in DEP's. I mean, if, we have rules and regs and we have our bylaws, and if you follow them, then this can't be done. If we took them out of our bylaw, then how can it be done? It's not like it's in there that we left it in and said, it'll be site-specific.
I think the bylaw also allows you to approve stormwater management practices that are approved by the state. So, although you've never seen one of these, I think you have some leeway where you could approve it.
I've prepared this figure that might help you understand what my process was when I started designing the project. So this is the cross-sections that's presented in your details in the site regulations. And this is what's built over at Bassett Knoll, or the Raynham Preserve right now. So what it requires is 2 feet from the seasonal high water table to the bottom of a underdrain. Then there's some space for the underdrain. Then you have the bottom of the basin. So then when we
So now that's what's, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what's required today.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
yeah.
your detail from
Okay.
your bylaw.
So if you go and look at Raynham Preserve, this is what's constructed.
Okay, yep.
And then from that bottom, we also need to make sure we have enough space for the 100-year storm. So you end up with about a 4 to 5 foot berm at the end of that. So for this site, I cut a cross-section through where we have our basin proposed. And water table is about 18 inches below grade on this site and at that location. So if I come up 2 feet from the water table, then another 2 feet, and then come up another 4.5 feet, I'm actually 10 feet above existing grade. And then when I try and catch grade, the actual height of the berm is almost 14 feet in a 50-foot long slope. And you see that at Raynham Preserve. If you go to the back of the basin, there's a relatively long slope that goes all the way down. What that also does is now my pipe coming into the basin is another almost 3 feet above existing grade, and the backyards of the homes are 7 feet above existing grade. So this causes kind of an overall elevation of the whole site because it has lasting effects all the way back. So this figure represents, this is the cross-section from my design plans. And we actually notch the basin into the water table, and we start at existing grade on the high side. We come down, come back up, and the actual dike elevation is only about 4 feet above existing grade. We have our access road, and this is where Mr. Ventresca was saying we have a section that may be more than 6 feet at the end, the actual slope, but the overall height is only about 4 feet on the inside. So this is the reason why I was proposing this type of design on top of the other thing I mentioned. And I think that doing this versus what's in the regs kind of helps that overall feel of the
you show
an
Russ
open
that?
space subdivision.
There's another, that's another, no, that's something different. Just look at that one. See how far the fence is away from the fences in the background? That's supposedly a healthy basin.
Wasn't this in one of the ones that I just gave him?
That was a different picture.
Okay.
But that's supposedly a healthy wet basin where it has
Those are different.
a lot of growth and,
Is there another fish and an animal in there as well?
yeah, and there's, lower pieces, and it's,
That's a good thing.
instead of having, a 6-foot fence around it, you're trying to
Want to give
keep,
this to him as well?
you can give it to him, he probably has it. So,
This is what you get.
oh, is it what
I thought it was the same.
oh, well,
thing.
I'm
I
sorry.
thought it was the same. That's all right.
This
I,
is a picture out of the stormwater handbook, and I just brought a copy for my own reference, but you can
can see there's
Yep.
water there, and there's a nice grass slope leading down
Right.
to it, so.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna print out the 136 pages in the stormwater handbook.
Which volume? Yeah.
I just, I just know,
Yeah, yeah. And it,
and
and
if you,
again,
if
it
you.
reminds me of, I used to live on North Main Street by Hewitt's Pond, and it reminded me of that setup, where there was like an old mill pond, something that we would go for a walk or go skating on, or that type of thing.
Yeah, well, if we're gonna, if we can do allow a wet basin in our bylaws where it's not in there, I just would hope that you would be, look at it very closely. I think Ed Buckley has concerns about maintenance issues and.
Yeah, we received a letter from, and not to interrupt.
I wanna make sure that it is gonna have fish in it that can eat the mosquitoes. I even saw bat houses. They put bat houses up around it, and bat houses control mosquitoes.
Like
Which is a-
10,000 mosquitoes a night or
You know,
some nonsense like that.
And again, it's only stuff, I'm looking at, what's the future of our developing land, instead of just, having everything ripped apart and have these big, huge basins like we have over in Bassano. That thing's humongous, and it's just crazy. So I think there's ways of doing it, and I think the entire country is looking at ways of doing it. It's not just.
I have to tell you, you're in the business, you know what I'm talking about, the maintenance between this, the picture you showed me, and what we have over at Bassett Knoll, Raynham Preserve, you can't possibly compare the two.
I think
That's
they're-
a significant amount of maintenance, ongoing maintenance over
Well,
there.
Mr. Buckley had to buy equipment, additional
I'm
equipment,
sure
just to
he
mow
did.
all these.
Yeah.
And like he said,
Yeah.
all these subdivisions, he has 2 extra men with
Yeah.
all the equipment just to go around and maintain all these that's happening. And I think if they're done a little differently in the future, that-
Lee and I have been working together for, I don't know, at least a decade, and we've done quite a few subdivisions in southeastern Mass, and they've all had wet basins. And we were talking about it, what level of maintenance, how many of these wet basins do you know of that have been maintained more than 0 times?
Yeah.
All of them.
It's not-
They're all pretty
unfortunately,
much.
it's not what's out there.
Yeah.
The information
right.
that's out there says that it's more
It
maintenance.
suggests
It's
otherwise.
more,
I know.
you know what I'm saying? So
I do.
when you read that,
Yeah.
It's
I
a-
don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not an engineer. I'm looking at it and I say, well, they want 20 feet of driving around it, so you can get all around it. I think we require 10 feet now. So there is a lot for us to look at.
Yeah, when
But-
Ed first talked.
But if you look at what the state says, a wet basin does remove contaminants more so than a dry basin. Russ,
Just a thought, if it's worth pursuing, if you've done a bunch of these, if we found out where they were,
Oh.
is it worth contacting,
I would go by.
Go take a look.
but also contact the town, like whoever's job it is to maintain them, highway department or something, and saying like, you like them, you don't like them,
Yeah, right.
and if you had to do it all over again, yes, no, or what changes would you make to the
Yeah.
layout?
We should go take a peek.
Right, I'd like to see, because like I said,
1,000 words.
The
I
wet
think,
basin itself is a new thing where it's just a pool of standing water, but the ones that we've done in the past were more the constructed wetland that
Right.
looks more like
which is
a wet meadow.
which is
type of
everything that I've seen, which
Right.
Yeah.
basically is gonna eliminate our mosquito problem.
Speaking of which, they're gonna be doing aerial spraying next week here in Bristol and Plymouth County.
So, any other questions? I know Burke's still probably on medication from his knee. And I'm on gout medicine, so my stomach's growling away.
I guess I'll be gonna take more medications. than
Did you have,
What
did
did
you
we-
have a knee replacement?
Knee replacement. It's,
Still too early to tell.
it's a long recovery.
Yeah.
So we're gonna look up that plan, because I just have, I have to see why, how we got to that point. Again, has nothing to do with Perry's property, it's just,
No.
it's a matter of the number. We've all agreed that this is better.
I'm sure when you
I
look at
just-
it, you'll see the configuration is changed. It was just a better layout.
All the
it's a
research,
better
the good thing is
configuration.
I found that it wasn't accepted by the town, and we have money in an account to
Yeah.
do, you know,
Is that to finish it?
To-
Finish the,
to do some, yeah,
enough?
improvements.
given
Well,
how long
I
ago it was put in there?
Well, I spoke to Ed, and the roads, he said pretty much need to be resurfaced, but he's thinking about a new, you know, it's like the tack, the old way they used to do the tack and stuff.
I'm not familiar with
Loose
what's
gravel.
that.
Oil and sand, yeah.
Oil and sand,
yeah.
and
Oh, okay, they did.
Let the cars
they did
pack
nice
it.
Years
that
ago,
put
they
in
used
this
to do
gravel
that.
stuff, and then they rolled it, and it became a road.
yeah.
That's how
but
First Street is.
I guess he said there was something, something new, they're putting, I don't know, mash or fiberglass or something in it, I don't know. So he thinks that we could have enough money to do that and do all those
That's good.
over and then get it accepted at the town meeting, so. So I think you see what we're talking about the basin is gonna be, you know, very important. It's not in our bylaws. If we're gonna approve it, it's gonna be something that's gonna be the very first of its kind. I would like it to be something
Done
that we
right.
can go back and look at and say, look at how this is.
So would we.
Because, you know, here we are 5 years, 10 years down the road, you know, I think that bat house idea, you know, they creep me out. But if they're in the woods,
Oh,
They put,
absolutely. It's-
at the middle school where the kids play, they put barn swallow houses. And when the kids are playing lacrosse, that they all dive bomb and try to get the balls. But they just buzz around and eat mosquitoes all day. So it's,
Well,
instead of bats, we could do swallows maybe.
Well, there you
That's
go.
less scary.
something,
Yeah.
you know, I just
Yeah.
think it's something that we should really look at,
Yeah.
improving, the way
So my
we do
intent
things.
moving forward is, we need to do a little bit of redesign, based off of the input from the sewer, based off the comments that we received from Niche. We did receive some, comments from DPW. I do just want to say that, in there, he did say he wanted to clarify his position that, he may have felt like we were presenting that DPW said, this is a great idea. He did say that
Oh,
so
I
long
saw-
as.
Yeah, no, I saw. Mr.
Yeah, but so
Buckles.
long as we reduce the maintenance burden to him, that he would approve it. So the literature that I have, he did highlight a couple of things that are of his concern. My intent is to put together something to present to him so that we
Yeah,
can
we all
deliver
received a
product.
copy of that. Bob had sent
Yeah.
that to all of us.
Yeah, he found a couple of things. I mean, in the handbook, it says right here, it's sediment generally needs to be removed less frequently than other BMPs. So my goal of this is to create something that's more environmentally friendly for the whole development and to have something that's more easily maintainable. So we can present that to him, and I'd expect that we'd be able to receive something from him back. So that's, expect to see some changes to the plan and some responses to these comments next time we see you.
Okay, so with that said, our next meeting is May 16th. And hate to keep putting you at the end, but you seem to follow that.
If I may, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, I suggest, I don't know, I hate to move at this point, but move the Riverwalk down so that you can be part of all the
I
other
don't think
ones.
Riverwalk is gonna be,
Want to be part of it?
I think it's gonna get continued only because I don't think they're gonna have the, what needs to
All right,
be done.
my only point was, I didn't want
I'm
to
not-
see you have to go away and not be
Yeah,
part of it.
I would move that because that's,
All right, so Riverwalk comes out and you can put him in?
I'm not sure, I
All right.
would, yeah, put it at 6:20. They
Yeah,
don't,
okay. That's.
I mean, if
that's
you're
the
gonna be
point.
here, you're gonna be here whether you listen to something else, so we'll put you at 6:20, and that way it's, we're not waiting in between. And time to act.
It's May 29th right now.
You want to continue till June? What do you want to do? June, May 29? That's the second meeting. You can wait until May 16th to bring that back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to be here in front of us on the 16th, fill it out. And you know how much time you're going to need to finish, so
Yeah.
give yourself enough time. All right, so this is going to be continued until 6:20 on May 16th.
Frank said he was gonna help me out drawing the plans, so we can get them done.
He didn't have enough to do. He was looking for stuff to fill his time so he wouldn't have to go fishing.
And I missed Jeopardy. Which is epic.
That guy's a freak.
Okay.
That kind of knowledge,
It's absurd.
Form A, Tear Out Road, Bornstein.
Do we,
Oh,
Mr. Cassidy,
that's right.
I think we should have the discussion
I'm
on
s-
the
I'm s-
sidewalk issue with Bassett Knoll.
Yep.
I'll stick around.
Yeah, I think everybody got, did everybody get an email? Ed,
I did it a couple times, and it's a little over my head.
well, Ed Buckley is looking to, he's looking to be consistent going forward. And he doesn't like the sloped granite because sloped granite that you would normally buy is not, doesn't allow the contractor to put it in, cement it, and then have a full layer of blacktop over it. The cement has to come up as high as the binder course, so then when they're putting there's no binder underneath it. And
He said that there's the erosion at the top.
he just, he just does, it's not that much blacktop. So anyway, he's been asking these guys to buy the bigger sloped granite, so they're freaking out, saying, if I'm gonna go do that, I'd rather just do vertical granite, because it's almost the same money and it's easier, I don't know.
Well, as I discussed with you, though, we're narrowing roads, and so now you got emergency vehicles and things.
Well,
and
this
you
is-
need slopes, so they can get up
Well,
and around.
Again, that's what, and I think we're gonna have this, our rules and regs and how things are gonna be, I had mentioned to Bob, I want some outside consultant to come in, whether it's Serpide, we have hours with them, but I really think that.
Well, I met with Ed on site, the end of the week last week, and I think it was the end of the week, wasn't it, Bob? I think it was Friday. And we, to go over this issue, he said he wasn't gonna be here tonight. And we basically ended, he said, I would not be opposed to either like White Street, the vertical curb on one side and the Cape Cod berm on the other side. Or if you do the slope granite curb, which he said he'd be amenable to, but I think clearly his preference was what I had just described. But he said as long as you use the longer stone, larger stone, and you install it properly and show me a detail of what you're going to do. And I went over with Jimmy Lanigan, and we had absolutely no problem with achieving what he wants off that. But one of the things I mentioned to him was when he said, well, you probably prefer that because it's less expensive. And I said, I'll be honest with you, that's a relative wash between those two.
It is.
If you do it that way. I said, so I don't care. I said, but in a subdivision like this, with the roads as narrow as this is, I said, putting a vertical curb in and limiting that side of the street seems to me, if I live there, that's problematic. I don't, that's not really, I would want the ability to be able to pull up off the street and,
Well, and again, I'm mixed on it only because, yes, it's so much easier being able to drive up. This subdivision has, 70 houses?
yes.
And they're all young families, kids. The one advantage of having the vertical granite on the sidewalk side is somebody's driving down, hits that sidewalk, there's kids on a bicycle or something, it's gonna help.
Yeah.
So I'm almost saying, why a lot of our things are site by site or certain conditions.
Well, I agree, if you're gonna have a sidewalk, it's the same thing on a commercial property, we talk about the wheel stops, all that does is launch you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is a big family,
Instead of a bollard,
this is,
so-
you go to Whippoorwill, and they're in there, they're people walking, talking, neighbors are always
Yeah.
together,
Nice
they're,
neighborhood.
they have picnics in their front yards over there, which is great. So I'm sure this is gonna be that same type of community with a lot of people moving around. So having the vertical on the street, on the sidewalk side, and letting them do Cape Cod berm on the other side. They're in it right now. They're they're ready to do it, so they kind of need an answer. It's something that we're going to be, Ed would rather see it that way.
But we've always gone with whatever the highway superintendent.
We've-
He's got to maintain it, so
we've-
I mean, it'd be foolish to go against him at
We've,
this point.
we've listened to what our highway, Roger Stolte and Ed have kind of a somewhat difference of opinions. And when Ed mentions in his letter, he'd like to be consistent, and I haven't spoken to him, but my comment to him is gonna be, well, consistent, you've only been here for 5 years, we have 17 years of Roger Stolte. Yeah, we have to be consistent, but we can't keep changing the way we do things every time we have a new highway superintendent. So, for this one, I think for safety, I would rather see the vertical on the sidewalk side. I think it would be cleaner. And then do the Cape Cod on the other side. And if everybody's acceptable to that, I don't know, did you have either way?
Speaking with Ed, I mean, he just wants to have some consistency. Like he did on White Street, he has vertical curbing there. He prefers vertical over the slopes, and he likes the Cape Cod berm there. But in the future, it should be designed that way because you need a wider base coat of asphalt to do the Cape Cod berm properly. To go back and tie it in like they're going to have to do it, it's going to require some patching of the base coat. So going forward,
We're gonna have to patch in a foot of binder, course, on the Cape Cod berm side.
So right now, you came in front of us and you got a waiver for,
Slope granite curb. And
Slope.
the road was laid out, the catch bay, everything is set up for that.
and Mr. Buckley understands that, and he says he'll keep his eyes on it to make sure it's done properly.
well, I know exactly what you're saying, and if you're gonna have to start patching in that 1.5 foot of pavement, and the plow hits that, it's not part of the binder. That would be my concern.
It'll be below the top coat, so no plow's going to hit it.
What you patch, correct, but what's gonna be stuck to it is your Cape Cod berm that the plow's gonna hit and just pull everything with it.
No, that'll be a monolithic pour with the top coat. We're just gonna patch in.
Oh, okay,
Flat
okay,
surface,
okay.
and we'll patch
So
it in
it'll all be
properly,
one.
it'll be done. I've talked to Jimmy Lanigan about it, to
All right,
make
well-
sure, I said, whatever pitfalls there may be to this, let me know. I don't wanna go to the board
Right.
tonight, and then you tell me later on that, he said, no, we've done it before, we'll do it, it won't be a problem, and we'll do it fine. We'll do it entirely acceptable to Ed Buckley, I guarantee you. And I said, fine. And confirmed with him that the berm will be part of a monolithic pour, because I know that Ed has a particular, with the cul-de-sac that we did out at the pump station, which was very challenging, because to do it with a monolithic pour, because it was so small and the shape of it and everything else. But we did do it. There was a lot of handwork, but we did do it with a monolithic pour. So I know that the monolithic pour is extremely critical to Ed. So we will get it done that way.
And you're acceptable to
Yeah, we'll
doing that?
do it, yeah.
Go with the vertical on the sidewalk side and the Cape Cod berm on the other side?
Looks great on White Street.
No, I know,
It
it does.
Today, it looks
does.
fantastic.
They did a nice job there.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, just for the record also, they were given a waiver on the sidewalk, and they were, it was giving, in lieu of a $75,000 payment for the reduction of one sidewalk, plus there was supposed to be some drainage work at both entrances. Neither of those have happened yet. I just bring it forward so that the board understands that Mr. Castanetti and Ed Buckley are still working on the particulars for the drainage. They haven't figured it out yet. There's some challenges, but that hasn't happened yet. So to follow the letter of the original approval, those two items have to be handled.
Yeah, and when we did that, the 75,000 is going right into Locust Street, when we have funds that we're gonna be putting in, I think came from lights on the other end that never got done. We had like 150,000. And then I did tell, and, I told Ed, because what Ed was looking for was right outside, putting a manhole, a catch basin, and it was gonna be on top of the water line, and the water department, they don't want it. So I told Ed that as much as he wants that you gotta find, you gotta work with them, because we can't hold it up anymore because the water department doesn't want this. If you can't do a shallow one and run the water, it's country drainage. Locust Street's been there forever. So.
We are trying to accommodate.
No, I know,
but
I
it's
know.
somebody else's
I-
property. We
you know,
can't command people
I
to
totally,
do it
you know,
for us.
So that's where
unfortunately,
the drainage issue is coming in, that it's something that,
We could, there's an old, very old asbestos, the main is an old asbestos line. And to put a catch basin in at the edge of the pavement where you would normally put it, would be too close to that line and would interfere with it, and the water department was death on that.
Bill,
They
the
said
last
no
superintendent, Bill
excavation.
Ward said, please,
No,
don't
yeah,
make them do
don't
that,
even think about
because.
cutting in there like that. And
Freezing?
No, settling, if
set
this
the-
thing ever
Settle,
caved,
okay.
if this thing ever put pressure
Yeah.
on it and that broke, they would be doing all of, it's just one of those things that just keeps breaking as you go.
You're gonna excavate so near it, and there's nothing you can do to avoid the settle, there's gonna be subsequent settlement to some degree, and,
So if you're,
so. we're-
you're willing to do the vertical on the
Yes,
sidewalks
yes.
and do it like that, and, I'm
We certainly
sure,
will. Yep.
I'm sure Ed will be happy with that, and
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll work with you to get whatever you can do on across the street.
Yeah.
I know he did mention.
We have set up,
that
the
land-
basins are set up on our side to
Right,
accept it.
right.
So we're set on that end, it's just a matter of getting
How to
the
get it
permission and being able to make the connection.
Okay. All right, very good. So you're, now,
Can you,
we're-
I don't want to
no,
overlook that. I wasn't aware that $75,000 payment wasn't made, but I'm assuming that what Bob is saying is obviously true. And I would simply ask for an indulgence to June 30th, and I will get
oh,
that paid.
I don't think we were asked, I don't know if I'm sure in our certificate of action, it does say, I don't know when it was due or
I don't
when
think
is.
it does. I think it was
Oh,
a
it was a
subsequent
it was
waiver
a modification,
after the
that's right.
fact, yeah. So I think it was just part of that, and I don't think it's in the certificate of act. There was other
There's
payments,
another one.
and and that was made from the first closing.
Okay.
And I think this was supposed to have been made perhaps from the second closing.
I did see.
on
I
phase
did
two,
see paperwork.
And if it
on that.
wasn't, I just have to check my records, and again, I'll discuss it with Bob, but if you just give me till June 30th,
We
we'll,
need a minor modification anyway.
For
So when
this.
you put all of this in together, the vertical curbing on one side and the money by
June 30th.
whatever,
Yeah,
and
just June
whatever else
30th.
needs to be, and the two drainage areas or whatever's getting worked on.
Yeah, I'm gonna, if it's all right with the board, I'll talk to Ed and Bob, and we'll figure something out for that, so it's done. We've been dealing with this for 2 years now, that entrance.
Okay.
And it's time we let them move on and figure something out and get it.
Well, whatever they need for
Right.
modifications.
Right, that way
Get
there,
it all-
then I
Get it
can-
all onto one paper, nice
Exactly.
and neat.
Yeah.
But that way there-
And next time around, we can vote on it.
If we do that, then
Yeah.
we'll have just one one modification, and it'll be done.
I'll do the modification, and we'll do a detail sheet with it for the curbing and the,
Okay.
so there's a, because it's not part of your current regulations to do it that way, so.
Right.
We show a cross-section showing both, showing the curbing on both sides done that way.
All right, very good. Thank you,
Thank
Bob,
you.
for
Thank you.
bringing that up. Tayrot Road, Form A. We don't have, do we have a Form A?
Yeah, Russ has it. He has the Mylar, we don't have paper copies yet.
Is that,
Is he here? He was here.
he got tired of listening to us talk.
Thanks again.
Good night.
Thank you.
So, can we do it?
You can.
Did the town clerk certify that Carroll Road is used and maintained as a public way?
I don't believe so. Did you?
I see something that was addressed to the town clerk
It's,
in the emails that we got.
this is not a subdivision because every lot shown on the plan has frontage as presently required by the zoning bylaw, which requires 150 feet direction of a building. and every lot has frontage on a public way, which the town clerk certifies used and maintained as a public way. I'm not saying yes or no, I'm just wondering.
I don't think it's gonna be a public way until he does the improvements.
Right.
And he's not gonna have adequate frontage, until he makes some improvements.
Right, so what you just read, we approved a plan, road improvement plan, so he has to do the road improvement plan in order for it to, so it's no different than a subdivision. We do the same thing, we approve a plan, and then gets accepted, or,
Yeah, and if he wants to come forward and, develop the lots before the roadway is done, you would probably have him post some kind of a bond like you do in a regular subdivision.
yeah, right, we talked to him, we told him that night.
So, should we sign a plan tonight?
Yes, I think you have to. Because that's falling right in sequence of what has to be done.
Okay.
He has to do this work. Bob already knows he's
Okay.
not gonna give him building permits. And I think we told him, he understood, because that night he was here, we told him that he wasn't getting building permits.
And right on the top of this plan, the last part of it says, subject to approval of road build-out site plan by planning board.
Yeah, I think we might have had him even add that. So, yeah, no, I would sign it. But we're gonna have to ask him for paper copy.
Yeah, once you sign it.
Yes, before we turn it loose. I make a motion that we accept plan of land site assessors map 12 lot 239K, 869 Locust Street, Raynham, Massachusetts, prepared for Barnett Bornstein by Sylvia Engineering Associates, Inc., dated March 8, 2019, as a plan not requiring subdivision approval.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Not for me.
Yeah.
There are a lot
Yeah,
of things.
sure.
on this
You
that
don't have to do that.
Just Russ to sign it for me. Yeah.
Make a motion, we waive the reading and approve the minutes of April 4, 2019.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Bob, anything?
A lot of the things I had to talk about, we went through over the last couple of hearings, but you may want to be talking about this after we're done, but the idea about revisiting the rules and regs and reaching out to Serped,
Yes.
is that part of your conversation here?
Just as a note on that, I know that the selectmen are planning to use some of those hours for the master plan. Right now, they think there's 40 out there, they're 20 and our 20. If we want to take our 20, we need to let them know, so that they don't double it all up.
Do you think you can reach out to see if they have some time that they can start the process, and we're looking at
That we would fund with additional funds or with our 20?
I don't wanna,
Go ahead.
let me back up. I don't wanna, cut our rules and regs short. I think we have funds, we have hundreds of thousands of dollars, so if we have,
That's fine.
The only thing I would caution is, I think we may find that they're booked already for this
Yeah, they got a, if you look at the Serpent package, they got a list of projects in the works right now. We might not be able to get in, but I'll ask the question. I have to go there tomorrow with this, or not tomorrow, Monday, they're not open on Friday, with this form, and I'll ask.
If you could ask if they could just give us, I know they just got through doing, I think Berkeley, Freetown, I looked them up,
those
and,
are master plans, though, not rules.
Oh.
and regs. Those are master plans.
I'll show you.
that was
I would
my-
think rules and regs, 20 hours would do it, of their input, because we've always done it without.
Right, right.
This is an example, if you look at this, of what they got in process. So us getting in for this year might not happen, but I'll ask the question. As I said, I gotta go there Monday with the form saying that I'm still the Serpent guy, and I'll.
Well, just ask the question,
Yeah.
and then I'll do some more research, and,
Where do we have hundreds of thousands of dollars? Do we have a special account?
We have an account that,
Maureen desk somewhere?
underneath, that's why Maureen sits so high when she's down there.
He's on top of the money.
When we had, when I went to Ron Terowitz, he had $400-something thousand or $300-something thousand. I worked with Randy, and we agreed to give Ron back $75,000 as long as I could follow him to the tax collector, and he used the $75,000 to pay his back taxes, that he would give us a letter stating that he gives the planning board authorization to use his 200, the balance of 100, might have been 150,000 as we see fit. So we have,
Yeah, that's good.
we have funds.
That should be more than enough.
Well, yeah, because some of those funds was going to Locust Street for roads, because that, a lot of that money was where came in from, 150,000 was Church, Leonard Street or Locust Street lights. When he did Finch Farms, he did those projects down there, that's where all the money came from. So we figured, those roads need to be done, so. That it? Anything else, Serpent?
Yeah, I had Maureen put something in your package. You can look at it and get all the details from it, but it's the week before last now. The governor, where am I? Right here. Announced on Monday of the week before last that the first phase of the project for the South Coast Rail would cost just over $1 billion and be funded entirely by the state through a combination of general obligation and special obligation bonds. Now, what the difference with that is normally this year, because it was, for a while it was under MBTA, then it went under DOT and so forth, and it never got into their budget, so nothing was happening with it. Well, so he's come up with another way, and I don't know what general obligations and special obligation bonds are, but it's being funded. It's you'll look in this package that I gave you, $1.471 billion, and that's just to get Fall River and New Bedford to come into Taunton, where the purple dinosaur is on 140, that general area, and I'm not exactly sure how that, there, and then from there, it'll go over to catch up with the existing line that's in, was it Lakeville or Middleborough Station, although they're moving that station, and Middleborough's not happy about that, because they've done a lot of construction all around that station, and now they're saying, well, what the hell, all that stuff's gonna be there, and you're moving the station away from us.
Yeah, I couldn't figure that out.
Yeah, well, I don't know. But this package shows you the number of trips, the number of, just as an example.
Yeah, how do the trains do every day? Are they full, half full?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I can't tell you. Yeah, I know that they have an issue with the existing station.
Parking lot's full.
I was gonna say, yeah, they have an existing issue with the parking lot, so I assume that they're full, because there's not enough parking spaces there. They're really complaining about that. But if you go in here, it shows you the number of bridges, the number of it's just unbelievable, the detail of this here. But I guess it's $1.047 billion, I'm sorry, I misspoke there. But you might find it interesting. Again, we're still at 2022, I believe, for this first stage. There's a lot of new tracks that have to be put in, because the track that's there isn't rated for passenger transportation. It's cargo goes at a lot slower speed than the people, and so they have to change the tracks and so forth. But if you go through this here, they've ordered the tracks, they've got all the permits and all that stuff coming. So I guess it's gonna happen. This is the rest of the package.
All right, anything else?
I think we have plans to sign in the other room.
Yeah.
So if we, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your confidence on this next year, and I will make sure that I try to keep everybody informed on a weekly basis.
And please understand, my vote was not a vote of no confidence by any means.
No, I totally understand. And sitting on the other side, I think it was important, because I see a lot of things that whether I have an outside meeting with Bob Highway and an applicant or nothing, and I can promise 100%, I have never, ever told an applicant on the outside when meeting that if they did this, this, and this, it will be approved. I always say it's a 5-member board, and it all goes in front of the board. I don't ever approve anything, and I've said that from beginning, and I stand by that. So even though sometimes you may not feel that you know what all the information is, but I'll do a better job this year to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So,
With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we semi-adjourn?
no, we adjourn with,
And then sign a plan?
we adjourn and go sign
To
plans.
sign, and to follow up with signing of plans. How's that sound?
All in favor? Aye.